Okay, I'm live now, honey. Oh, hello everybody. Your good buddy Jody Sharp from Superflies for Super Guys. And today I thought I would tie with you some wiggle changers that are really cool. They come in a bunch of different colors. Here is a pink one. Let me go to this view so I can see what I'm doing live. So here's a pink wiggle changer. As you see, they got a nice foam top and a nice metallic belly with a nice marabou tail with some sparkle in it, and some Google eyes and a plastic lip. And you can do them in other colors. Here's a very, very, very good color. This one is tried, tested, and true. This is an orange one, so metallic orange ribbon, foam back with orange foam and orange marabou tail with orange sparkle in it, and some orange wool dubbing and plastic lip. And there's the gray version, so gray tail, red dubbing, gray foam, and like a metallic gift bag underneath. So there's that, and two more color options that I've made so far are the yellow with the gold belly and a red head, and this one I kind of experimented with a plastic tail. I have not made this, I have not fished this one yet with the plastic tail, and I would like to make some with a red tail to match the red head and see how that goes. And if I ever do fish the plastic tail one, I'll let you know. And here's a red headed one with white foam, white metallic ribbon, and red craft fur on the tail. This color works extremely well. So those are some different options. I think today I'm going to show you this orange one. This is the one I'm going to do right now. Really, really good fly. I've caught lots of different types of fish on it. It's a really, really good attractor pattern, and it seems to bring fish up even from the very deep. They'll come up. It's a slightly subsurface, so it runs probably, I don't know, a couple inches below the surface. So first you're going to start with your end hook. On these ones, I use a size 16 straight hook. I didn't have any straight hooks, so depending on the type of hook you have, these hooks I've got, you're able to straighten it with a flat plier. You put an even amount and you slowly just put a little pressure. If you put a hook, depends on which type of hook you choose. If you put a really tampered hook in there, when you go to bend it, it may not bend. It may just snap off the eye. And that's not exactly the end of the world, because I'm going to kind of show you a way you can put an eye on. So like, say you didn't want that eye, you can form an eye out of a small piece of Christmas wire that they use to put the ornaments on the tree, and make a new eye. And in this case, for this fly, I'm going to do that anyways. Yes, the wire fits through there, but it's a little bit snug, and it doesn't have that same wiggle as the eye would. Like this has a better wiggle, but I'm going to get to that in a second. Let's attach our thread onto our hook. and I will show you what I mean. Now, when you straighten the eye, if the eye did stay on there, bonus. And the reason I'll tell you why it's a bonus is because it's going to help lock in your other eye that we're going to make here in a second. So, if you have your looping pliers, what you're going to do, so there's different types of looping pliers. There's these little looping pliers which make little loops, and then I have a bigger looping plier which makes a bit larger loops, but I like the loops to be a bit smaller. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a little loop. So you put your wire in between your looping pliers and you give it a twist left and a twist right. And this is going to make your straight loop. Now you're going to take your cutting pliers and you're going to cut that off, put that piece aside. And you're going to place this down on your hook. And you want this new now Christmas wire eye to be right in front of the other eye of the fish hook. And as you can see, it's quite a bit larger. And this is going to be really what you want, so that when you put in your attachment, let's see, where did I put that? I had one here. Ha ha ha. So here's your first articulated spine, right? So it's made out of the same Christmas wire. So when you attach it, it's going to be able to attach like so. And as you can see, as long as you don't really crowd the hook, it gives you a really good wiggle. But for the moment, I'm going to take that one off. I'm going to do a shout out for my wife in this video because she's a very wonderful woman and she's beautiful and she allows me to take time to make these videos for you guys and do these lives. She turns off the TV and so there's no background noise, and she's very patient, and I tie a lot of these flies for you guys, so yeah, shout out to my beautiful wife. Okay, so now that you got that tied in, and you want to be really, you want to put quite a bit of thread on there. You want to be very liberal with your thread. Not conservative. Alright, so now take your crazy glue and you're going to run a bead of crazy glue on there. And that is just going to lock all those threads together and make everything super tight and stiff. Okay, after, make sure you wipe off the tip of your crazy glue. That will be helpful. Alright, so the next thing you're going to need is some orange marabou. I usually get those feather boas from the Dollarama or any dollar store near your house. Those are the ones I usually use. So cut off the excess feather, what you don't need, and you'll have your marabou. And then you're going to tie that in. And depending on how quick you were, the crazy glue will also attach to that, which will just help everything just be even that more secured. You want to wrap it down like so. Then you're going to take some of your crystal flash. I have some in orange to match the tail. If you don't have orange and you just have like a white, like a pearl, that's fine. To be really honest, I don't think that part of the fly is going to make a difference to the fish. So take probably about 4 strands of that, place it on the back, and then tie it in. Just like so. Alright, now we got some sparkle in the tail. This whole fly just sparkles, as you can see. Oops, dropped my crazy glue. As you can see, this whole thing just sparkles. The bottom sparkles, the top. And this is what they really see, right? The most, because it floats on top, so they really see this wiggling sparkle is what they see. This is a crazy, crazy fly. It's just fantastic. I don't know where my other foam scissors went. No, they're over there. Okay, good. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take our orange fun foam. All right, 1 millimeter fun foam, and you want to cut it flat on the end, and you want to make it, I don't know how to measure that. I don't have a ruler handy, but you want it to be just wide enough that when you fold it over the hook, it's going to completely cover. Alright, so you're going to have to experiment with that, but you'll get the idea. And you want to put it right to the end of the hook, and then you're going to tie it up to where the now new eye is, and then you're going to tie it all down. And you want to tie this part of the fly in pretty tight and pretty even, so anywhere where as you tie it in it becomes lumpy, you can just tie it in until it's fairly smooth like that. By the way, I'm using a clear nylon thread because it blends into pretty much any material, which is fantastic. And when you put the metallic on, it blends into that, so you don't see it all that well. Now, here's the thing: when you compress foam, let me just check the comments for a minute before I carry on. No comments. Beautiful. All right. When you compress foam, it loses its floaty powers. So because foam, for any of you who tie with foam already, you know this, there's air pockets in foam, and when you crush it down, all the air pockets lose their air. So any parts of the foam that you cinch down or crush down or put a lot of pressure on are not actually helping your fly to float. So this part will not be adding to the floatability, but the back part, the whole back of your fly, like once we tie it down like that and tie it, that is the floaty part. And for the 3 segments, that is what's going to make your fly float. So if you didn't know that about foam, now you know. Okay, so throw that out. And of course I put my ribbons over here. Okay, so if you go to the dollar store or the Dollar Tree or your whatever, you're going to buy that ribbon, that gift ribbon, and if you can find this orange color, this exact orange, it's the best color orange you can get for that. However, if you cannot find it, and I'll tell you, it's not always on the shelves. I've gone to a lot of places to find it. It may be a struggle to find it. There are some darker or redder alternatives. They're very shiny. They're very similar, but they're a little darker. You can also use maybe a yellow. So like if you cannot find this orange, then just make sure that the foam you use is orange, because that you should be able to find. But I covet this orange foam, this orange metallic, because it's, wow, it's hard to come across, and when you get it, I usually buy a lot of it because I make a lot of these particular flies, and I'll tell you, they just work. This is a must-have in your fly box. If you don't have one of these flies, well, this is what I'm telling you. Learn how to make them. They're going to be helpful. All right. So, you tie your material, your ribbon, in facing the front, and then you're going to run your thread back to the back of the bend of the hook where your feather or marabou is, and then you're going to start wrapping your fly, making sure that the metallic side is up and the non-metallic side is down. And if you let go, that's okay, because you can just keep wrapping it again. And you're going to do consecutive loops touching each other. Until you get to the end, and then you're going to catch it with your thread, and you can take your scissors and cut it flush. Make sure when you cut it up to the top, so that when you do this next couple of threads, the line will be at the top and not unraveling on the bottom. Because sometimes if you cut it, it looks very messy, and you want, if you're going to have any kind of mess, you want it up at the top, because when we pull over this foam, then it's going to cover any mess you have. So that's what we're going to do now. We're going to pull over our foam, but before we do that, I always like to do some half-hitch knots in there, maybe 2 or 3 of those, just so that whatever work we've done up until now doesn't unravel on us. Okay, so now we're going to make sure our thread is hanging flush there. We're going to take our foam, we're going to pinch it a little bit so that it makes like a bit of a U shape, and then we're going to shape it around our body of our fly, and then we're going to tie it down with our thread. Then we'll do a couple of hitch knots to secure it. Like so. And then we'll take our fine scissors and just trim off that thread. Okay, and now you're going to fold up this last little tail piece of foam, and you're going to take your rounded scissors if you have. If you don't, you can do it without, but I do have, so I'm going to use that. So if you do have it, use it, and you're just going to cut a round shape so that it looks nice and rounded at the end, so it looks like a natural end to the tail. And there you go. All right, so it's up to you at this point. If you like that color orange, the light orange, you can leave it that light orange. And if you want to continue on with that light orange, feel free to do so. I prefer it to be a little bit darker because it will allow for there to be a contrast. So believe it or not, when you take an orange Sharpie marker and you put it on your fly, it will allow there to be contrast in your fly. So it'll still be orange, but it'll be a darker orange. And something about this color combination is just absolute killer. So go over your whole, not underneath of course, but all the top. But underneath, if you see, you've got on each side of the foam, you've got the little edge. I like to just take the edge of the marker and go just over there. And try not to get it on your metallic underbelly. And on the tail, I just like to go a little bit around, just so it's all blended in. So see, it's a very contrasting color. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to take our black Sharpie marker. And again, you don't have to do this. You could leave it without any body lines. So like on this pink one, I didn't put any body lines. And it works just great. And I'm assuming on the orange won't. But I like to put these little body lines. And on the first part, I'm just going to do 2 body lines. And then on that little tail, I'm going to do body lines. So you're going to have, it's going to look like this. And then on the top, I just like to put a dot and a dot. All right. And before we move on, I'm going to take my clear nail polish, in this case Sinful Colors, but it doesn't matter which brand you use. Try to find a brand that doesn't smell so bad. I mean, nail polish smells. So what you want to do now is you just want to dab those black spots just a little bit, and not go over the whole orange yet. You just want to dab the black, because you don't want that black to smear and run, and it is going to do that. It's going to, if you went over that whole thing with your nail polish right now, it would start to have like a smeared effect. Okay, so with the leftover metal that we have from our Christmas tree wire, we're going to make another piece with our looping pliers, similar to the piece that we just made. All right, so that'll be a straight, we call these straight loops in the spine, and these are what you're going to attach, obviously, onto the next piece. So if you were just making a one-piece wiggle, you could just attach that on, attach it onto the next hook, and away you go. But this is what we're going to attach the whole thing on later. So we're going to make one piece in the middle, and this will be the piece that attaches onto the larger hook in the front. So put that aside, because it's actually, see this little magnet? I've got a little neopladium magnet. I'm just going to put it there so I can find it later. So I'm going to take my next Christmas tree wire, because we're going to need a bigger piece of that. And I don't know, this Christmas tree wire is really good stuff. I don't know what they make it out of, but it doesn't seem to rust. And it's really strong. So it's all in all, it's a really fantastic for making game changers and stuff. So before we get started on that, and now that you can see that the nail polish is dried over the black, now if you go over the whole orange, there will be no smudging. So you can just go over all your orange bits. And that's going to seal all the colors in. Just carefully do the trim on the underside. Come on. Carefully go on the underside, do the trim. And what I strongly recommend is after you do the orange, wipe your brush off. And as you can see, you'll get orange. If you don't wipe your brush off, what's going to happen, you're going to put it in your nail polish and it's going to turn it orange or pink or whatever color you are using. So always wipe it off. And don't necessarily cover this orange part, because if you, depending on the ribbon you've found or used, and I mean you'll have to experiment with that, you may wipe off the orange that's on it. So, and then it's not going to be that orange metallic. So it won't do that in the water, but it will do that if you start touching and rubbing with this. So that's just a little hint. Now, some of my ribbons do and some of them don't. So depending on the ribbon you find, you may or may not do that. And try it with the first one, and then if it does, don't do it again. If it doesn't, then you'll know. And let's just check the comments to see if we have any. Nope, we don't have any comments. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is make this piece, the next middle section of our fly. So of course it's a 3-piece fly. So while that dries, we're going to make that piece. So we're going to take our looping material, our looping pliers, and we're going to make it about the same size as the end piece we have. So measure it from the tail to the eye of that. Put your looping pliers, and then make your first loop. Okay, so now you have the straight. Now, here's the trick. On the other end, you're going to make another loop, but instead of making it horizontally this way, you're going to make it vertically this way. So make sure that your loop is straight onto you, and then you're going to go onto the edge, put your looping pliers in, and you're going to make your loop. So now, as you can see, what you have is a joint on both ends. So now that is part of the spine. So take your pliers, cut it at the edge of the eye, and put that little piece away because you can make a straight edge with it later. And there you go. So this is the middle of your fly. So take your spine, so you've got like these two little edges here. You can unclip them, take one of the edges, put it in, and so you can see it allows this whole thing to wiggle up and down and side to side. So depending on the water current and how fast you're moving it, it's going to have this really, really cool wiggle in the water. So I'm going to take my fly out. As you can see, the nail polish is dried in the time it took me to make that. I'm going to take the magnet, clip it to the end of the hook. I'm going to slide that little loop into my vise. All right, and this magnet holds the tip, so it allows me to tie, so this doesn't flop in my way and all that. So it's very, very helpful. So now we're going to attach our thread onto our middle section here. So if you're watching live, thank you for watching live. After it's done being live, I am going to download it, and once I download it, I'm going to remove it, and then I'm going to put it onto YouTube, and then I will be able to put the link from YouTube back onto Facebook, so you can go watch it from my YouTube channel. And if you do that, I greatly appreciate that. If you check out my videos on YouTube, I appreciate the support. It really helps me out. It helps my channel grow. If you want to share it, you can share the link on your own Facebook pages or your own groups. I appreciate that, and it's very helpful. Okay, so for this one, we obviously don't need any marabou, and because everything's going to be covered up underneath and these two loops, you don't really have to put any you don't have to put any nail polish. You can't, or not nail polish, crazy glue. You can if you want. It will add support, of course, but I don't usually need to for this end. I usually just do it at the connecting ends. So like the ends that connect straight on the end, I will do it there, just because I want that extra strength. I have yet to have one of these flies break on a fish or being snagged on anything or what have you. I have yet to have one break. So the next step here, now that you got your thread And you want to be pretty liberal with this thread, so you know, you want to go back and forth a few times and make sure that's all locked in there. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to make sure our foam is flat on the end, and we're going to tie it up the shank of the hook to where the eye is, and always pull it up and make sure it's you don't want to crowd that too much, because you want this to be able to have that full wiggling range. And we're going to compress the foam. We're going to just tie. You may not, if you want that a nice tapered sort of look, you don't want to compress it as much as you did in the tail. So it'll just add a little bit of bulk to your ribbon. Now I'm going to attach this ribbon, and I'm going to hope that it's enough to get me around down to the end, because it's a fairly short piece, but I'm fairly conservative, so I try to make things work. So, and if you're careful, you can. So just tie it in. You only need to tie it in by 1 millimeter, and then you're going to bring your thread, wrap it around, try and keep your ribbon out of it. And as you can see, it's nice and snug in there. So I'm going to tighten it in, and I'm going to start wrapping around, palming it around, palming it to the end. Oh, are we going to make it? The suspense is killing me. Oh, we just made it. Praise Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Oh my gosh. For those of you who've been watching, watch me. I do believe in our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. And he ties flies with me all the time. A lot of my inspiration comes from him. And he saves my butt a lot of the times on patterns like this. So, we did make it to the end. And for this one is really simple. Again, we don't have no marabou or anything. So again, we're just going to fold our foam down, making sure that it's all nice and snug at the end. And I don't know if you saw what I did. I just want to, if you attach your orange here and work your way up, you're going to have to put your line through your metal or through your ribbon on the way down to tie it down, or you'll have to tie off at the end, reattach, and tie it down. But if you tie it at the front and wrap it down to where you're going to tie it, you don't have to go over it with any thread of any type. So that will really save you some thread, and it'll save you from having thread in your pattern that you don't necessarily need. And it puts your thread where you want it when you need it. So take your foam, pinch it in your fingers, give it that little tubey effect, and then tie it down. Now, thread cuts foam. That's something to be aware of. Thread cuts foam. So if you're, let me just adjust my camera here. If you're cinching down your foam, you want it to be tight enough to cinch it down, not so tight and so many wraps that it cuts off and cuts the foam, because it'll cut your foam and that'll annoy you. That's something I can't teach you. That's something you just have to learn by feel. And if I were you, I would practice tying down foam on a spare hook. Get one of the colors you don't use all that much, and just practice that for a while. Do a bunch of that until you understand how the thread works with the foam. And that's just something from hours and hours of practice. And yes, I did it too, and I still do it, I know fair well what happens and how it works and how much pressure I need. you know, sometimes you come home, you're tired, you just want to tie flies, but you're tired, you're not paying attention, or maybe you got in a fight with your wife, God forbid, or your boss made you angry or something, and you got a little bit of anger in you or something, and you're just angrily tying flies to calm you, and until you get calm, you're cutting your foams or whatever. So it happens. So anyways, now that you've done 3 or 4 good cinch knots, you can cut off your thread for this section, and you are going to round off the end again with your scissors, just like you did on the tail. See, just like that. All right, just make sure that you got a lot of wiggle room, and you can adjust that, so you can take it out of your vise and make sure it's wiggly. If it is not doing that, you will need to cut it again. You will need to go back in and trim it out. So for the moment, I'm just going to place it back into the vise, and if you've been following along, we are going to do that same orange. We're going to color it the same way. Again, if you like that paler orange, you can leave it pale orange. I have flies that are pale orange. They catch fish just as good. But because I'm using that metallic ribbon for the belly, I want the contrast there. Something about the contrast of the darker orange on top really works. So again, go around the edges. This is hard to do on camera for you guys, by the way. If you're a fly tyer, let me know if you film fly tying for people, tying your flies. Let me know in the comments. You know, if you struggle with filming. Obviously, when we are tying flies for ourselves, you don't have to worry about weird angles or trying to make it so that people can see. But let me know. Let me know how you feel about filming for others. I mean, obviously we have good flies, so we have to film them and show each other. I mean, that's the whole fun of it, sharing with each other, learning. That's why we love to watch each other's videos and see what we're doing and whatever. But so again, just like on the tail, I put stripes on there. I put a couple extra stripes, so this segment is just a tad longer. So I put 3 stripes instead of 2, and just put the dots. And of course, as I told you in the last, actually let me just check your comments for a minute. No comments yet. No comments yet. All right. So take your clear nail polish and gently dab just the black. Don't rub it, don't push it, just dab the black. And then we're going to let that black dry for a few seconds, and then we'll do the orange. And like I told you guys earlier, if you did the whole thing, what's going to happen is it's going to smear. The black is going to run into the orange, and all the work you did is going to be pretty much wrecked. And who wants that? Nobody, right? So while that's drying for a couple of seconds, we're going to pick our next hook, and we're going to put a bigger hook as the front. So this is going to be our front hook. So this whole pattern is about the length of your finger, right? So that's what you're going to want to do. Take your hook, put it in your thing, slow pressure, Just slow and gentle pressure, but steady pressure, and it will straighten your hook. And I've never yet to this day snapped the hook, have the hook snap on a fish or on a snag. So yet to this day has that ever happened. I've snapped my line, but I've never snapped the hook. So keep that in mind. Not all hooks are built the same. Every hook is different. Every hook has, again, if it's a tampered hook, you may not be able to straighten it like as easy, and if you put the wrong pressure, it'll snap. So, but these hooks that I have don't do that, and I've tested a lot of hooks. I have tons and tons and tons of hooks, so I've tested which ones do what. And if they snap off, I just make a new eye. I'll just make a new eye and put it into tie it into the fly. And usually it's a bit bigger of an eye that was provided anyway, so it's easier to tie, easier to see. So for me, if I snap a hook, I don't throw it out and go, oh, that's a wasted hook. I put it in the pattern anyways. I put it in the fly. I just add an eye to it. So not a problem. And trust me, when you cinch that down and add an eye, it isn't coming off. And if you crazy glue it, it's not coming off. So anyways, carrying on. So now that it's dry, we've touched it, it's dry. Okay, I'm just gonna go over the orange and seal those colors all in. And pretty much that's all you're doing, is sealing these colors in. The nail polish just helps the color last longer on your fly. If you don't do that, then the orange of the marker will start to fade quickly. It'll rub off. It'll every time you catch a fish or whatever, it'll start coming off. Whereas if you seal it in with the nail polish, it is going to last longer. It's going to make your fly last that much longer. So keep that in mind, and remember to just get the edges and don't touch the. Again, test it. If the kind of ribbon you have can take it, put the nail polish on. It'll seal that in a little bit too, but it's not necessary, and you don't want some of these ribbons again. And I'm gonna it's worth repeating. Some of these ribbons, if you put nail polish on it, it'll rub off whatever the color is on there. So you don't want that to happen. Okay, so it's not quite dry, but I'm going to move along and put my last wire connector in. So, and now you can see it's wiggly, wiggly, wiggly. So we're going to take our hook, and what I didn't show you was the size of the hook, which the front hook is a size 8. It's either an 8 or a 10. I'm thinking it's an 8. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's a size 8 gap. So this is a size 8 straight hook, because I've straightened it. I know you guys, a lot of you guys like your hooks with that little bend. I hate it. I don't like it, and in majority of my flies, there are some patterns that call for that to be in there, and that's fine. I mean, when you're making a fly that rides with the hook up, like, you know, really deep sinking flies with eyes like stuff like the pink tickle or carpworm, or you know, there's certain flies where yeah, you really want that hook to be up like that, and that bend does help with that. But majority of the flies I tie do not have that, and again, that's a personal preference. You guys are going to do what you want with that. Yeah. So now that it's pretty much dry, You want to line this one up so that this is going to be up and down. If you put it off to the side or just tie it on crazily, it's going to give this thing some weird retrieve, and you don't want that. So this is a kind of a crazy part to get this on, because you want to pinch it down but hold it so that that goes up and down, and it is almost certain not going to. So you're going to have to tie some of it on, and see it twisted already for me. There's nothing, I haven't found a way to get around that. If you know a way to get around that, or have any ideas, put it in comment. I would love to see that. But because it does that, I just take my hemostats and I just straighten it up so that it's straight up and down. And then I put a little more on. And if it should twist again, I will straighten it again, but it shouldn't now. I've got a fair amount of thread on there, and this is the part where I'm going to take my crazy glue. I'm going to put a fair bit of it on there. I'm going to be very liberal with this. I want this crazy glue to lock those threads in there. And because it's a nylon thread, is really, really cool because it melts the thread a little bit. So all that melts into one thing and becomes really solid on there. So now I'm going to keep going. I'm going to add some more thread, and this is really just going to lock everything in. And it stayed straight, but I just want to make sure it doesn't have any wiggle. And now the glue is setting up, because that crazy glue dries fast. So there is no wiggle in there at all. So I am really, really impressed. So yeah, this is good. This is looking good. I'm going to take my thing and put it off the side. So now I need one more piece. I don't think this is going to do it. No. So I've cut the next piece. I'm going to have to go start with the next piece. But before I do that, we have to make the lip. So as you can see on all the wiggle flies, I have put this plastic lip. Now, what that plastic is, it can be any kind of plastic, but it has to be stiff. It has to be not so stiff that you can't work with it, but stiff enough that you can bend it, but it'll hold its shape. So I get it from stuff like, this was a mouse. When I bought my new mouse for my computer, I used the plastic off of that. This was, what was this? Oh, these are guitar strings case that my dad, when my dad had to change the strings on his guitar. Anything where the plastic is tough enough to hold its shape, but not, right? So you're going to want that. And this is where it gets a little tricky. We need, where's my other scissors? Make sure if you're cutting plastic to have a designated plastic scissors. Don't use your Dr. Schlicks on plastic. It'll kill them. Don't use your designated foam cutters on plastic. It'll kill them. Use your whatever designated. These are some old razor edge. These in their day when I first got them were pretty much like my Schlicks. They're a fantastic scissors, but they have over the years, and I mean I've been doing this 35 years, they've become a plastic scissor. So you're going to want to cut, basically if you have a flat head pair of pliers like this, you're going to want to leave 2 millimeters lip on one side and on the other side, and you're just going to cut a little tiny dent in there so you know where you're cutting. And then you're going to cut your plastic straight like that. Alright, and once you know how to put this lip in, you can change the lip. So if you want it to be wider or narrower or longer, all those things change the action of a fly. The lip, and Rapala knows that, the Rapala company, and all the lures that lure companies make, they know. There's round lips and square lips, and you can play around with that. Once you know how to put the lip in, you can play around with what kind of lip you want. Like, do you want it round? Do you want it square? Do you want it triangle or teardropped or whatever you're going to do? But for this fly, and this material that I'm using is a bit thinner. So if it's a bit thinner, you can double it up, right? So I'm going to double up this material. And I'm going to take my pliers, and I'm going to go in there, and I'm going to measure this lip based on the lip I have in there, because that lip is almost perfect every time. So I'm not sure how long that is. It is, I can tell you how long. It's about the width almost of your shank, of your middle shank of your body. So make your bend at that point. So like measure it against there and make your bend at that point, and that'll be helpful. So then what you're going to do, once you bend it to that size, you're going to take your scissors and you're going to go 2 millimeters in from each side. Alright. Do not slip and cut it all the way across. If you do, you're just going to have to start again. Then you're going to take your pliers, put it square in the middle, and push up the sides. Okay. Next thing you're going to do is you're going to cut your sides on a little angle, like a little sliver there, so that they're rounded, and just round the tips a little bit so it's not such a sharp tip. Okay. Then on the bottom, you're going to do the same thing from the corner to the edge. You're going to make a little rounded bit, and you're going to cut the tips. Alright, so it's rounded. So now you got this rounded edge, and you got extra plastic, so you can cut off that now. And what you want to do is, because you want to be able to tie this on, and you want your hook above the lip, so you want the lip below, you're going to bend your plastic up like this. Alright? And as you can see, it's probably a little long, and you don't need all that extra plastic. So just go along the edge and cut off what's extra. And I will show you that in a second. Okay, so you want it to be relatively flush, but you just want a little bit of a tips on there so it can grab on. Okay, so now when you've got it on, you're going to pinch it with your fingers, and you're going to catch it at the top like this. Alright, and you're going to be quite liberal with your thread at this point, and then you can slowly just move your fingers down a little bit and pinch it and work your way down till you've got that whole thing grabbed on. Okay, like so. So now your lip is installed, and then just take your thread and go under the eye and over, and then from the other side go under and over, and do some crazy eights under the eye like that. That's going to help lock everything in. And then you're going to just be very liberal with your thread and lock it in. Now on a pattern like this, which as long as you don't snag it or hang it up in a tree, it will last you a long time, you can afford to be very liberal with your thread. Because this fly will last you years. I have some of these patterns like this that will last you years. So a well-made fly can last you a long time. So this is why I tell you, coat in your colors, tie things in nice, add some crazy glue, because it will last you a longer. You will make a fly that lasts longer. If you're selling them, it'll be better for your customer, because they'll be happy with it. They'll come back and buy, because they'll know you made a really well-made fly. So I suggest you do that. Don't take the cheap way out. So the next thing you're going to do, you're going to take your crazy glue, pull your bobbin out of the way. I should have been telling you that all along. If you watch any of my other videos, you'll know I say that all the time. Pull your bobbin out of the way, because if you get crazy glue in your bobbin, you're going to hate it. You're going to be so upset that you killed the expensive thread. And some of you I know are tying with really expensive threads, and I can tell you, this clear nylon thread is one of the most expensive threads I have. And I have dropped glue in at least one time into it, and it screwed up my fly and my threads bad. And I, you know, for a $6 or $7 thread, you know, I tie a lot of flies, and I can't afford to have that happen to me. Okay, so now, as you can see, that is in there, but good. It is not going anywhere. You can make minor adjustments with it. So, like, if when you're swimming it, when you first cast it in, if it needs to go up a little bit or down a little bit, you can do that. And if you feel that the edges of it can be bent a little bit, you'll have the flexibility in there to bend it. And this thing swims really with a good S swim in it. It's really got a good curve. Okay, so let's check the comments. Making sure people are watching or not. It doesn't show anybody's watching or any reactions or any comments. I'm so sad. But that's why I record it, because it's, you know, Wednesday dinner time, and a lot of you guys are working and are just coming home from work. So I get it. So we're going to take our last piece of foam, and we're going to hold it on, and we're going to pinch it on, and we're going to tie it in right where just above the eye, where the plastic meets the eye. I'm going to tie it in. And I'm not going to compress it down too much, because I do want to continue on with that tapered look. So that will help with that. And I'm going to need some more ribbon, because I used up all the other ribbon on the other part. So here's the thing. This ribbon is kind of fat. Like it's wide. You don't need all that width, and when you're tying it down at the end, it leaves a little chunkiness at the end, which isn't very neat. So what I like to do is I take my scissors, like so, and I cut it in half. And there's some ribbons that are wider, so I'll even cut them in half again. So, because they're like twice the width of this. So it depends on what kind of ribbon you found or bought. But I prefer to use it a little bit thin. So as you can see, now I got 2 strips. It'll go a little bit further for me, and I can make extra flies with it. Now, This whole time I've been tying it in at the front and working my way to the back. I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm going to tie it into at the front. No, wait a minute. Sorry. I must be getting hungry. This one I'm going to tie in the back, and you'll understand this one when we get to that part. So for this third section, we're going to tie this one into the back and work our way up to the front. Doing consecutive wraps, and as you can see, it's got that nice taperedness to it, and that's because we tied in that plastic lips, so it made everything wired, which also works to the favor of the fly because it makes it look more like a minnow, more tapered. So tie that piece in so that it's not wiggling anywhere. Snip it again at the top. Tie it down. Make sure it's tied in. Everything is good. Fantastic. Take your extra ribbon, put it in your bag so you don't lose it, or however you store it. And we are going to make that little orange piece. So we're going to take some orange, like neon orange dubbin. I make it out of wool. I believe I have a video on my channel about it. So if you have not seen that, you can go check that out. And this part does two things. One, makes a little hot spot at the front, and again, just makes a contrasting color. But it does another function. So if you see the Google eyes, they actually glue better on to the wool than the foam. They'll glue onto foam, but they glue a little bit better onto the wool. So if you're using a certain type of fly, like this fly, you can add a little bit of wool in there. So it'll add the hot spot. So as you can see, I made a noodle, a dubbing noodle. And always start with a little bit and add it, because you can always add more, but it's harder to take it off than to add it on. So if you don't have enough, you just twist it onto your line, your thread. I have yet to wax a thread to do that. I know some of you out there use a lot of wax and you wax your threads and then you put your... I've yet to do that. I'm not insulting you guys. If you do that, then do it. It won't hurt anything, but I've yet to do that. So the next step is you're going to bend over your foam, and right in the middle of your hot spot, you're going to put 2 or 3 loops of thread, and then you're going to make one more dubbing noodle, but this one you're going to put on as thin as you can. So you're going to make it a very, very thin dubbing noodle. So like really, really wrap it on with your fingers. And then you're going to do 1, 2, 3 loops. Okay? And that's going to be enough to hold down your eyes on there. Okay? Now you can take your thread, and this is where I'm going to show you. Nylon thread is really great at blending in. Because you could tie off here, tie on at the end if you want, or you can just do very wide loops through, and you hardly see it. You hardly see it, and the fish are not going to notice that when you in the process. So do not worry about that. And if you are worried about it, that's up to you. You can tie off there, retie there, and then carry on with this next step. So as per the last 2 sections, you're going to pinch it so that it's got that little bend in there. And then you're going to tie it down. Again, tight enough to make sure it's tight, but not tight enough to cut the foam. And by the way, this would be a bad place to break the foam because it'll look really awkward if you go back and retie a different foam. It will be bad. So you want to learn not to cut through your foams. So do 2 or 3 cinch knots, then you're going to snip it off, and you're done with your thread. Now, just like the other pieces, you're going to cut this round. Alright, and you can put your foam aside because you're done with your foam. And now, wiggle, 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 wiggle. This wiggle pattern is just mesmerizing. It is such a cool pattern. I really, really love it. I can't say enough good things about this fly. And it attracts fish. It really, really does. If you are new to fly fishing, or if you're really a lure kind of guy versus a fly kind of guy, but yet you do want to try out fly fishing or be, you know, this is as close to having a RAPALA as you're going to get. This kind of fly. You know, Game Changer, same thing. A lot of those Game Changers, this is kind of like a Game Changer, only I call it a foam changer because, again, it uses a spine system. And it's so like it's a Game Changer only with a plastic lip. So it's a foam lip changer. So be it. Call it whatever crazy name you want to call it. All I can tell you is it works like crazy. It just does. Knocking stuff off my desk as I go. All right, so we want our color to blend in with the rest of the colors, so we're going to take our orange Sharpie and we're going to color it up. By the way, on these little end pieces, I don't know if I've been saying it, but to make it blend in and look proper, you just want to fold them up a little and go under there a little bit so that it blends. Again, if you choose to have the lighter orange versus the darker orange, then that's not a problem for you. Or if you don't have an orange Sharpie, then don't worry about that. Or if you wanted it just a solid colored fly and you didn't want to use the black in there, you know, like I was showing you with some of the other colors. If you just wanted to do a solid orange with then do that. Those decisions are up to you, and that's the one beautiful thing about fly tying is that you can customize a fly so anyway, once you know the basics of most flies, so like now, you know how to tie this fly. If you want to make it blue, make it blue. If you want to make it whatever, make it yellow. Making a mess now. Making it yellow. Right? I mean, you know the basics. Whatever colors you do, whatever color pattern, make it black, make it red, make it purple. It doesn't matter. Whatever works for you, you do that. But now that you know how to make a wiggling fly, let me know what colors work for you in your waters. And what works in one body of water, one color pattern, might not work in another body of water. Fish are funky. Even though you've got bass eating in one way, in another water, they're not going to eat that. Or if you got pike or whatever, sunfish, panfish, they're going to eat it one way in one lake and another way in another lake or another stream. You know, streams are different than lakes. Fish are different feeders there. You know, like ponds are different. Lakes are different. You know, every body of water is completely different from another. So, and again, today they might be eating these. It's full sunshine. Tomorrow could be full cloud with rain, and they're looking at it and going, "Forget you, buddy. We're not interested in that." So, I mean, there is so much to learning about fishing in general and fly fishing. Like, there's match to hatch. So, you want to make something that looks like what's hatching because chances are that's what they're eating. So at this point, before I keep talking, I'm going to take some crazy glue. I'm going to take 2 little Google eyes, and where that you want to put them square onto the side, right into the wool, and that is going to attach it on solidly. And the more solidly a fly can be, the better it is. Now, UV resin is expensive, and I don't usually use it. If it was less expensive, I would probably more readily use it, because flies that are made with UV resin, okay, yes, it adds a tad bit of weight to a fly, but not that I've noticed that is superly noticeable that would sink a fly. So if you attach these eyes on with the UV resin, they almost certainly wouldn't come off. You'd have to like peel them off. So like a bass or a pike or something would not peel those off. So if you have UV resin, by all means, instead of the crazy glue, attach them that way. If you're like me and just refuse to buy UV resin because it's just super expensive, then no worries. But do what you're comfortable with. But crazy glue, it'll hold the fly eyes on there pretty good. I've made enough flies and fish with. The other good thing is if the eyes happen to fall off on your trip because you're tying them at home, when you go home, just glue another eye on, and away you go. You're back on the water again. Just something to think about. So anyways, this is that fly. Really happy with it. It's a great little fly, again, about the length of your finger. So about the size of a medium-sized RAPALA. And the wiggle action is crazy. I'm trying to get some really good wiggle footage. I'm a better fly tyer and fisherman than I am a photographer. So sometimes my photography skills are not super fantastic. I do really good at underwater footage, but the rest of my footage is kind of hit or miss. But I still show it to you, and I grow day by day, and I try and focus on it, fixing it up and making things nicer for you. But this is that fly. Let me just check the comments, see if anybody commented. No comments. All right. Well, guys, I'm gonna download this now. This is where I'm gonna call her quits for this one. I just wanted to show you this fly. I get it. It's about an hour to tie it, but it's a well worth hour because this particular fly, this one here, I fished it all last year and this year. It's come out on almost every trip and caught probably about 100 fish on every trip. So it's caught a couple thousand fish in the last 2 years on it. And look at it, not even beat up, no teeth marks on it, nothing. I mean, it's a solid fly, solid. So tie them up if you got the materials. Tie them up. Let me know how that goes for you. If you have any questions, put them in the contact in the thing. If you, of course, my name's Jody Sharp. Message me on Facebook if you're watching this on Facebook. If you have any questions or comments, how it works, what you enjoyed, what you don't like. If you got any pictures or videos of you using or catching with it, go to the Ontario Fly Tying and Fly Fishing group, post them in there, or Not Your Grandfather's fly tying group. Those are the two groups I run personally. Put them in there. I would love to see them. I know the other guys in my group, we got 450 members in Ontario Fly Tying and Fly Fishing Group. I know they would love to see you, what you're catching on it. And yeah, just let me know. If you try a different color, purples or blues or browns or any kind of crazy colors, let me know. Let me know how you're doing with it. Yeah. And that's it. So keep your fly on the water, tight lines, and fish on Canada or fish on wherever you are in the world. Love you guys and girls. Catch you on the next one. Jody out.